sorry. I forgot I ate a bunch of crackers. Now I'm really dry.
I just pelting the screen with debris.
I ate a handful of fucking saltine crackers and 2 beef jerky sticks. So it's perfect for talking right now.
Were those keto crackers though?
No, just straight up saltines, baby. It's how I like them.
That's it.
Hello, everybody. This is Cinematic Suffering, and welcome to this eventful podcast. I'm Jason.
I'm Clay.
And what we watched and viewed was Devil's Island.
That's right.
Clay, can you tell us a little bit more about Devil's Island?
Devil's Island was filmed over the course of a week. In 2021 is when the film released. And it was helmed by a father and son duo. I learned this about them, Sean and Taylor King. They own their own little production company. And when I learned that about them, I looked at their promo reel on IMDb, and I couldn't even come up with a joke about it. I just thought that's pretty cool, man, that these guys are a father-son team and that they make low-budget horror movies together.
Right,
so,
yeah. That's totally fucking cool.
It really is. And then the son, who is Taylor, he said that his dad is more grounded and he's the one that wants to do vampires and aliens and werewolves and
hell
shit.
Yeah.
So probably to mixed effects. I haven't seen any of their other features, but kudos to them for like keeping that creative energy within the family. The film stars Elaine Alexander as our main character, Samantha. Chris John Sokoli plays Michael. Sorry for butchering that name. Pete Berwick, he lights up the screen as Mort, who I kind of consider the exposition golem of the game. Sorry, Jesus Christ. Movie.
It's all one big game, bro.
We're all in a game. And lastly, well, not lastly, but of note is Cliff Yates, which we can talk about a little bit later, who plays Sheriff Thompson. So the film was it was filmed in near Chippewa Bay on this island near the St. Lawrence River. And its claim to fame is Thousand Island dressing, which is an interesting fact.
I didn't know that. And so that was a very interesting fact, but I read some article on it.
Yeah, it probably stemmed from the one that you sent me.
Okay, I'm just trying to locate it again, but I can't seem to. Oh, I can just go into our messages and actually pop it up. Technology, man. It's so advanced.
I tell you, man. And you can tell we're some crackerjack researchers. Like, clickety click. We're going to film in 5 minutes. Go, go, go.
What do we know about this? Well, we know Devil's Island. It's kind of a short feature film. I'm not even sure you would call it a feature. It's just kind of let's just call it a short feature film because it clocks in at an hour and 11 minutes.
Yeah, barely long enough to be considered a film.
Right. But I just want to go ahead and put on the brakes here and go ahead and give props to the watch through that we did for this. Guys, this watch, I will say I'm the most proud of this watch through that we did. And I really encourage you to go on the YouTube channel because that's where we have it. Oh, you probably saw in all our previous videos, we're referring to Patreon. That'll come later, but everything's up on YouTube. We're going to have the Devil's Island watch through on there. I highly encourage you pull it up on Amazon Prime, sync it up. We've got a time code in there and everything, and you can hear us riff on this thing. And I will say I was physically, I was just laughing so much while we were doing it that, I had some ab pains, and I haven't experienced ab pains in a long time.
Getting that core strength from those deep belly laughs. But basically, if you're a fan of Mystery Science Theater or riff tracks or any of these goofballs that like the Djibouti dubs, that's another. I'm a big fan of those dudes. This is right up your alley. We watched through this movie several times. And I was saying to Jason, like, it's going to be hard for me to give an honest critique of it because I've lived with the movie on repeat for the last week or so that we could write jokes. This is the first full movie commentary that we did, that was partially scripted. We watched it, we wrote jokes so that we could get our timing down. It's about, I'd say, almost 50-50.
Yeah.
There's a lot of jokes that we wrote, just full disclosure. There's a lot of jokes that we wrote, but there's a lot of stuff that we just came up with on off the fly. It's sometimes awkward and messy, but that's part of the magic. And we both had a great time, and I hope you enjoy watching it. So, if you got an Amazon Prime subscription, you can pull up the movie. Jason, as Jason said, he's got the timestamp to where you can queue it up perfectly and watch it with us as we crack wise about the Devil's Island.
Yeah, that's it's been one of the. I mean, I've had a great fun experience this entire time, but this one, it felt like almost a game changer in a way. That is this how we're going to start doing it from here on out? We don't know, because it does take a lot of time and effort, and you have to have respect for the writers of Mystery Science Theater and Riff Tracks and Cinematic Titanic and everyone else who does this, because it's not easy, but when it's finally complete, even if it's half-assed, sometimes it's fucking fun. And
Oh,
so, yeah,
it's a blast, and it almost becomes like a third work in and of itself when you do that, and it does. Like when you're sitting there rewinding the same point of the movie 6 times in a row to get the exact timestamp, and writing and rewriting the script, it's hard to look at the movie in the same with the same kind of critical eye. Like if I was
yeah.
just watching this one time through, I'd probably be a lot more. I don't know. We try to not be mean to any of the movies that we watch and give them a really honestly, like, kind of fair shake, a
Yeah.
very gracious,
I I think with the more smaller budget movies, we I don't think we punch down all that much. We try to punch up as much as we can. We don't make we have standards. We have lines we won't cross.
yeah.
Except for Veronica, when you got Danzig, he's a famous guy. He should know better. So.
Well, and like we've had other, I mean, again, this is an obvious, like we revere these people that have gone before us, and have kind of blazed the trail. You can also kind of see how they've stepped in it a little bit, like Bill Corbett of MST3K and more recently Riff Tracks fame. He said that he really regrets some of the jokes that they made about the actress, excuse me, that played Lisa. So, excuse me, that played Lisa in The Room. Like that, some of their
Oh,
jokes were really mean spirited in the first run through that they did of the Riff Tracks
yeah.
commentary. And he later became friends with her on Twitter, and he said that he had to tell her, like, I feel real bad about some of those jokes that we made because they were mean. Like they were funny, but they were mean.
Yeah, I mean, you can go back and watch any of Mystery Science 3000's content and see, that, some of their jokes, maybe even back, in the early 90s to in the mid 90s, late 90s, that some of them can be considered probably risque even today. I mean, I always think of Space Mutiny, and
Yeah.
which is one of my favorite Mystery Science Theater 3000 episodes ever. And the jokes they made about poor Leia, the female antagonist, or not a protagonist in there, calling her grandma, daughter, and I mean, I know they weren't being mean spirited. I know they probably wouldn't do that today, but back then it was friggin' hilarious. You watch it now, it's like, oh, it's kind of mean that lady, but
Well, and it's like, and I know we're kind of going wildly off course, but it's our show, so we can do what we want.
right. This isn't bits and chunks.
Yeah, I mean, but it kind of brings up kind of an interesting conversation, like around, kind of how do you make something that's as irreverent as horror? At its core, it's meant to shock, titillate. How do you kind of keep that within the realm of quote unquote good taste
Yeah,
in this constantly changing world of kind of social concerns and
sure,
and that
sure.
kind of thing? And it's kind of interesting to see it evolve. Like I watch a lot of YouTubers that are actively pushing against it. It's I kind of feel fortunate because in the horror realm, it doesn't impact us as much as it would like a mainstream Marvel movie, which I'm apathetic about whether it's
Yeah,
quote unquote woke or not. I don't give
yeah,
a shit. You know,
yeah.
I,
No, I'm full agreement with you, and you know, maybe we can continue that conversation on
Absolutely.
with a bits and chunks or something, because
Yeah, yeah.
that's definitely something we could devote an entire episode to.
Oh,
Um,
without question.
uh, but we kind of let off with this because we are very proud of what we did and what we, even if it's not perfect, it's that seed of something we're like, oh, that was really fun. So
Well, it's so much fun to be such a big fan of Mystery Science Theater and riff tracks for so many years. I've told you I've given the riff tracks guys so much money
yeah,
over the
me too.
years. Like
Yeah,
just new movie $10. There's one out this week. There's
yeah,
one Mary Jo and
Mary Jo
like
Peel, yeah.
yeah, like they're doing one this week. So we've been big fans of that. To be able to sit down and work on something and then kind of see it, it's like it actually kind of works. I mean, the haters are going to hate if they want, but I
Yeah.
mean, I think it was great. It was fun. So yeah, we should definitely check that out.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Devil's Island. Let's jump into this. I'm not even gonna say, I'm not even gonna hate on it. I mean, you mentioned before, we both spent a lot of time with this movie,
Yeah.
and you probably more than me. Unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know who's lucky in that one, but uh, maybe that's for the best because then you can actually see the movie through a couple of different eyes.
Right,
You
right.
see it on your first watch through, you may be appalled and bored. And then on your second watch through, you're like, okay, I'm still somewhat bored, but I'm not as appalled as I was.
Yeah, the
And
experience changes
yeah,
from
and then by
bored to
the
appalled or back.
and back, it can go back and forth, but um maybe that gives us some kind of, a little more deeper insight into the movie, even though I think it probably doesn't warrant too much of a deeper insight into it, but
it's it, it's an interesting movie in the fact that you're kind of sitting there scratching your head saying, why does this exist? Like it literally feels and looks like a bunch of b-roll of people driving their boat. There's driving, oh my god, like if you do a drinking game with this movie where there's somebody driving a boat, you're going to be puking on your shoes in 10 minutes. It's just constant b-roll. Look at this island, isn't this pretty? Let's show this panoramic view of like I see the island, and it is pretty, it looks beautiful out there, but it feels like they went out to film a promotional video for Elm Tree Bay, and it's or Elm Tree Island, and
yeah,
it just spun wildly out of control and became this movie. Like we could make a movie about this.
yeah. Let's just put these people in it, and hopefully they'll just do something, and we'll point, and they'll go there, and hopefully they'll do something. Point here, and she'll drive a boat here, and then over here.
Yeah. Oh, as soon as they realized that what's her name, Elaine Alexander, I think is her
Yeah.
name. Yeah, the star of the film. As soon as they realized that she could drive a boat, man, they took advantage of that. Like you drive the hell out of that boat, Elaine, just back and forth and back and forth.
Well, you remember the what is it? I think his name might be pronounced Christian. Maybe.
Probably, I'm terrible at pronouncing those.
Yeah, I see Christ Jan, so I'm assuming maybe it's pronounced Christian, who plays Michael in the movie. By the way, before we even go any farther, spoilers are ahead, guys. So if you
For
don't want to hear
for
spoilers,
for what it's worth, the biggest spoilers are going to be that this film is baffling, doesn't seem to have a plot, and doesn't seem to go anywhere. Well, I mean, we're like, we could probably avoid doing a beat for beat of the whole movie, but well, okay, for instance, that's just one of the many just inexplicable things about this movie is Cliff Yates, who plays the sheriff. Turns out he owns the island that they filmed this on. So I kind of wonder if they went to him and said, "Hey, can we film on your island? You can be in our movie." Like, well, what character? You can be the sheriff. Like, that sounds cool. So they used the sheriff, and I mean, I don't want to just assume I'd be a better actor, but could probably have done it a little bit better.
I don't know, from that article I read, which is from, what is it, Spectrum News One, that's up in Watertown, New York.
Yeah, it's an obvious local news
Yeah,
affiliate. Yeah.
and it seemed like, oh well, uh, they were just going to give him a bit part, but really that's kind of a major part that was in the movie, is the
No.
sheriff.
Yeah, he's in it about as much as the antagonist.
Right, exactly. And I didn't have that big of a problem with him. I knew he wasn't probably a natural or a trained actor or anything. But when he was reacting to the dead bodies of the grandparents in the dining room in the library, whatever it was, he, it was hilarious. And I don't think any other actor could have pulled it off like Yates did, man. He just the expression on his face was like, "Ah! Ooh," and he just came storming out, and that's when we just exploded in laughter when we were watching this movie.
Well, you talk about a movie that leaves. Not only does it leave it up to your imagination, like who the victims are, but it leaves it up to your imagination on why if they were or even if they were murdered, not why they were murdered. Were they murdered?
Right? Yeah.
And if so, what? Like I've never, well, I don't want to say never. I've rarely seen a movie that didn't seem to have any kind of through line as far as the plot goes. There was no, it was just incomprehensible that they couldn't have written this a little bit more. Like,
I mean, there's plenty of time. They had plenty more time. They had at least 20 more minutes to do this. But they said that's fucking. We're good at an hour 12 or hour 11. But
like
that
it's one big red herring.
that said, again, this has always been a complaint of mine through some of the films we've already seen is the tone of the movie was odd
Yeah,
because we see some scenes of Samantha, who's that's the her character's name, right?
yeah,
Elaine's
Elaine.
character's name.
Mhm.
Samantha arrives in Devil's Island. What 3 years later, right?
Yeah, 3 years after the sheriff finds the rotting corpses of her grandparents.
Of her grandparents, and it's like she's just getting there now. Supposedly she inherited the island for herself from her grandparents. But there's some weird things where she's muttering to herself, she's stumbling, falling down, and it's almost like a slapstick kind of comedy. I made a comment. I was like, does she think did she suddenly turn into Chevy Chase or something?
It
For
makes
missing out.
it does and it doesn't make a little more sense if you watch the promo reel of the directors. Their other work is out and out silly. Like it
Okay.
knows it's silly. This movie couldn't really find its tone at all. Like the lead actor, they gave her nothing to work with, and I kept wanting her to become like this apathetic kind of goth chick. That's kind of how she came across to me
Yeah.
initially. Just kind of that, the quintessential kind of apathetic, just not dead eyes, but just like couldn't care less. But they never
Yeah.
really played that up, and then it would be contrary because they'd show her dancing goofily for no good reason. And like you could tell when they ran out of ideas, they'd say, "Well, dance," and you could tell she wasn't much of a dancer and she didn't feel very comfortable, but she was still doing it. It was a very weird movie.
It was a very weird movie. There's a lot of padding in the movie. The montages are a good example of padding. There's other kinds of padding, but there were a significant amount of montages in this film. The dancing montages being the really odd ones, where it's that tone. It's like she's dancing around to this music, and looks like she's having the time of her life.
And
And
it and why? Like I don't what maybe she hated that they alluded or said that she came from Vegas, so you're kind of like, well, I've never seen somebody that enjoys their solitude as much as Sam does. And just a bunch of like it's I don't know, it's one of the things that I find charming about quote unquote bad movies, which is pretty much dominates what we watch, is that there's an earnestness to it, but there's also a baffling quality where you're just as an audience member and as a creative, you're thinking like, what were you what were you even going for this? Like,
yeah, I think I don't know. I can't pinpoint it. I think maybe sometimes filmmakers will the movie's so low budget they only have a limited amount of time. They've got this script, what script they have, and they're just we allotted more time to do this, but unfortunately we don't have the time to do it, so let's take some shortcuts. They may take some visual shortcuts. They may pad the movie with extended scenes of boat traveling. There may be a fuck it kind of purpose to it, saying, "Ah, fuck it's good enough," which I know
Yeah.
some directors do have. I don't know about these guys, but I'm just throwing those theories out there because I know it happens.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can't help but think that a lot of the B-roll made it into the final
Yeah.
edit of the movie because and what's funny about it is just there's a lot of moments of accidental comedy, and we didn't bring it up during the initial commentary that we did, but Sam, the lead character, will drive that damn boat back and forth, and she comes back each time with one little bag of groceries. Like it's a, nowadays if you came back with that much, it's like $80 worth of groceries. But
Right.
it's like you'll save gas if you get three, maybe four bags of
You
groceries.
get a whole bunch, and bring it back with you. Right.
So
Uh,
there's that, and then there'll be a tense, quote unquote tense moment where there's an intruder in the house. She inspects things a little bit and then just kind of shrugs and goes back to bed, and then
right.
we cut to the next morning. It's a
She's slurping
odd.
down a hot cup of joe like nothing's wrong, swiping the sleep out of her eyes.
I wonder if
Did I
they
see a robed figure in my house yet last night? Ah, it's okay.
did I see a member of Batushka walking around my house last night?
It just was nonsensical. We don't get we don't get why she was even there 3 years later. We don't get why she's being stalked and harassed. And and then when we don't know who the killer, I don't know. I guess he's a killer. We didn't see the bodies in the first part. Um, but we knew it was him the entire time, but which we can say now is Michael Christian, the guy
Yeah,
that
it's the one guy that they introduced that it could be. There's no.
right. There's no one else in the film that it could. I mean, if they introduced someone brand new who was the killer, it would made. I mean, probably made as much sense as having Michael as the killer, to be honest. But it was the buildup. It was just like I remember, like the last little section of the movie where you see him walking into the house. You don't see him yet. You just see his hand with a knife, and we're like, yes, it's Michael. It's
It's
Michael.
Michael. It's
It's
yeah,
Michael. It's
who's
Michael.
wearing the same shirt from the last scene and is built and has the shuffling gait of Michael. It's obviously Michael. We never learn why he's trying to murder her. And what's odd about it is in the middle of all this inexplicable movie, there's moments where you're like, yeah, these guys are pretty decent cinematographers. Like they frame certain shots
Yeah.
pretty well.
Yeah.
They sure shot they could take all the unused. I don't know that there is any unused footage. I think they used every nanosecond of it to make their 105-minute epic. But like they could edit all that together and come up with a really cool like sizzle reel to get a tourist to come out to
Right. To Thousand Islands, man. For
I,
sure.
I'd vacation there. I'd vacation there even if the robed kill it. Like that's another thing. There's like a wolf cult, but I don't even. It's kind of.
I didn't even know what was going on with that. It felt like a total non sequitur from the film that I was just because she finds this necklace with a wolf pendant, and what does she even do? She finds it, puts it on, and then eventually just throws it out in the water for some reason. A lot of things just there's no why or how or no
Yeah,
through lines to anything.
yeah, which again made it a great movie to riff on because there's these long moments of padding that allow us to insert jokes into it. So it's a very generous movie in that way. Like let's
Yeah.
I this has been a low rent conspiracy theory that I've had since I've seen Birdemic. Like when I saw Birdemic, I said I was convinced. I'm still not unconvinced that James Wen like made that movie in collaboration with the Riff Tracks crew because the timing is too perfect.
Right.
There's just
Yeah.
these like their jokes are bookended perfectly.
Yeah.
There's no way that it seems too perfect to not be intentional.
You're right. Yeah, that's the James Wynn's self awareness. of what he was creating. It's kind of like the director for Troll 2,
Yeah.
and that he was very upset that people were laughing at his film and thought it was bad, and for a while there it looked like he was going to accept it, but then he's like, oh, no, 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 I can't take it anymore. I made a good movie.
You
And
people are just mean. All of you people. All
that's
you
what we're
people.
looking for. And I don't think these directors, I think these directors are self-aware enough that they know exactly what they're doing, but they're just doing what they want to do, and they're doing what they love. And you can't fault them for that. I mean, you can fault them for weird pacing and no plot, and and a villain that you knew who it was from the beginning, but it's just inexplicable. What a weird movie Devil's Island is.
I know, and it's really strange that I enjoyed myself. Maybe, again, like we're we're too close to it now. We kind of like
Yeah.
become oddly, kind of become like these weird sort of fans of this movie that
Yeah, I
that
think
we know doesn't work as a movie.
right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I do it. Yeah, there's absolutely no hate for this at all. I
I
mean,
loved it.
there's some movies I've had complete total contempt for, and we've
Leave.
watched them, and yeah, Leave is one of them. And but that was a highly produced, slick film, and it failed on all corners. But and we even watched it. Even if you don't know, Clay and I did. We were doing cinematic suffering a couple of years ago. So there's like 14 episodes where we're looking at Netflix horror movies from A to Z. We didn't exactly get that far. I think we got into the A's, and then we gave up the ghost because we couldn't take it anymore. But there's some voraciously contemptible films that are on Netflix that should not be anywhere available to the public. But
Yeah.
that said, Devil's Island, I mean, it's good for at least one watch through with your friends. Again, all these movies, I would never suggest you sit there by yourself and watch it. Have someone close to you, someone you can laugh and live it up with. Have a drink every time they take a boat ride. It's just so.
Moderate a little.
Have a drink every time they have a montage. We have to mention there's a dancing montage. There was a rummaging montage,
Rummaging, yes.
rummaging where she's looking for stuff with a quirky music in the back.
Home Alone.
The Home Alone montage where she's devising traps and devices to catch whoever's trying to infiltrate her house. And yeah, I mean, it
Yeah,
was amazing.
it really was. You could like the creativity of the filmmakers were, what do we have in this cabin? You could you could tell that they just rummaged through, because like the set didn't feel like a set. It felt like a lived-in house. Like
Yeah,
it had this warmth and odd bric-a-brac that only an older island person would have in their house. They did
right,
not go and buy that stuff and make a set. They ran somebody out of their house for a week and
right.
filmed there. You could tell.
And I'm wondering if it was Cliff Yates, Cliff Yates' actual house, because he said he owned the island. So
Yeah, it,
I'm
it is either his house or somebody that he knows well
yeah.
enough to move them out of their house for a week.
Yeah, but I can understand. Mr. Yates. I don't know him personally, so I'll just call him Mr. Yates. Uh, he seemed to he obviously enjoyed it from the article that we read.
Yeah,
Like I said, it's on Spectrum Local News up in New York. You can look it up on the internet if you want to read it. And he truly enjoyed seeing the movie making process. And I know people that have never seen that process and are fascinated by it, and I understand why, because it's work. Even for a low budget film like this, it's a lot of work. And you said
oh
right,
yeah,
they did it within a week, and I think Yates or someone said that even though they had like a week, every day was like 20 hours.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
uh,
and that's the thing. Like, I mean, you and I are not necessarily like, I don't want to sit there and say that we're experts and we're insiders in the film industry, but we've done enough creative projects that we have kind of a very surface level understanding of it, at least. And just even the small DIY projects that I've worked on and done that are laughably low budget, like just like not B or C, we're talking whatever letters are further down
Right.
the alphabet, like just dog bone tired by the end of the day, because
Yeah.
you've just been lifting stuff, you've been and there's a certain amount of manic adrenaline that's going through your brain, like, oh, we need to do this scene
Yeah.
next, and we need to. So I mean, and I think that that's one thing that I hope comes through, is that we totally respect the craft, even if
Yeah.
the end product is somewhat questionable.
Right. Yeah, it's like, I admire the work that people can have into it. Some people can only work on weekends. Some people have a full job, but they want to work in the industry. And when you have that, like, oh, when I hear that a production like this is only a week long, I imagine people are taking vacation time from wherever they work, or so they have to have everything done in that week. And if that means working 20 hours a week, so be it. And
Well,
if
and you understand that as being a traveling musician at different spots in your past, that you got to shoehorn that into the stuff that pays the bills, whether you want to or not, even though it's the thing that you're the most passionate about.
Yeah.
It can't step on the thing that makes you a living. So
Right, exactly. Yeah.
it's tough as a working artist. It really is. Yeah.
It is. It is. I wish I was a working artist, but I'm not. But I love to live vicariously through the people that can do it, whether it's through these filmmakers or what you do for a living, or my friends who are in full time bands that can travel freely without having to worry about a full time job.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, that's one of the fun things about this project for me, is yeah, we poke fun of it, but I have a genuine admiration for these films, because they live outside of the normal ecosystem of any other movies, excuse me, while a lot of the internet is just like insanely, in my mind, preoccupied with the Little Mermaid, or the
Right.
or Ant-Man 3. I'm like, no, man, I care about Devil's Island. I'm
Right.
looking forward to checking out the death metal movie,
Yeah.
and I still think back to Veronica and stuff like that. Those are the films that I care more about, or the the ones that live on the seedy, mossy underbelly of the film industry.
I know. I love it. I live for it, and that's what gives us this thing that we're doing so much pleasure to do, is that we're
Yeah,
both doing something that we love. And Devil's Island may not be the most perfect movie in the world, but god damn it,
far from it.
it was endearing to us, and
Yeah,
we had a good time riffing on it. And if the filmmakers ever watch this, which I doubt they ever will, but
they
uh
might, you
they
know.
might, just know that if you watch the riff, take it with a grain of salt. We're not punching down at anybody, but we're having
Well, it,
fun.
it it was definitely done with affection for the
Yeah.
work, and like any other kind of commentary, like what we do wouldn't be possible without the work itself. So
Yeah.
hopefully they see it as kind of an odd form of flattery. I would love it
Yeah.
if they watched the riff. That would make my day,
Yeah,
knowing that they saw it.
absolutely. All right, you put the word out, everyone. All 40 of our subscribers here on YouTube, make sure the directors of this film know we're looking for them to look at our stuff, please.
Please, somebody notice us.
Hey, senpai.
Just want a little bit of attention.
Well, okay, I think we went over a lot of stuff here in Devil's Island. I try to look up more facts and things about the movie, but there's not a lot out there. Um,
It's thin. There's not a whole lot online about it.
yeah, I was trying to find maybe someone had a sit down or interview with the directors on it or something, but there's not. At least from what I could find, there's nothing on it that I could find.
We'll be the
Um,
first. We'll be
yeah,
breaking
yeah.
ground.
uh, so Clay, I guess that's about it. Do we have
Yeah.
anything else we need to add to this?
No, just check out the channel, y'all. If you like horror movies and horror video games, that's our shtick here. And like we mentioned before, we're doing a lot more comedic commentary for the movies, and whatever other creative ideas pop into our head, we're probably going to implement them. So we'd love to have you all along for the ride, and we appreciate every like and comment and word of encouragement and other. Who cares? Like, bring it on. We
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Yeah, and if you made it this far in the YouTube video, I should have put it up at the beginning, but don't forget to hit that like button. It always helps out with the algorithm, whatever the algorithm gods deem, and subscribe, ding the little bell thingy. If you're listening to this on your podcast platform, make sure you leave us a review of some kind. But I think that's about it.
Yep.
Devil's Island, you were a treat. First for us, what a delight to get through.
Yes. Yes. We look forward to many more.
Many more coming up. I don't know what we have coming up soon, but when it's released, you guys will find out when it's released. So until next time, thanks everyone.
Peace.
Have a good night.
Later.
Yeah.